I could argue that most teachers don't start as teachers. They start as artists, performers, producers, creators. And somewhere down the line, that identity shifts. The artist enters the classroom and becomes the educator. Becoming a music educator is often a process of identity negotiation, and these roles aren't separate. They overlap, they influence each other, and sometimes they conflict. The way a teacher creates music shapes the way they teach it, and the way they are expected to teach can reshape how they create. It helps us understand how these identities are shaped not just by personal choice, but by systems. Through research from scholars and some interviews of teaching artists, we'll dive into the sociology of music education and what happens when teacher artistic identity meets these institutional systems.
So, Dr. Newman, you're saying that everybody wears a mask?
That's correct, Wendy. We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking.
Becoming a music educator is often a process of identity negotiation. For many, teaching wasn't the original goal. It was performing, creating, and building a career as a respected musician and artist. But this isn't the reality for most. Making a living as a performing or creative artist can be tough, and sometimes we have to work different careers to make a reasonable salary, and for some that's teaching. Let's take a listen to the experiences of some teaching artists who made that transition from creative to educator and how they got their start in education.
Basically, I'm a producer, turned teacher, turned producer, turned full-time musician. She said, "Do you want to teach middle school?" And I said, "No." But then I looked at my wallet. And I looked at it and I was like, you know what?
I would say teaching. So I ran away from the idea of teaching in public school because I said I don't have the patience to do that.
So at the least, transitioning can be hard and a strenuous task for teaching artists, which might raise the question for anyone transitioning. Can I teach and still feel like an artist? Well, first, let's see what the research tells us. Some scholars say that identity is fluid, evolving, and shaped by experiences and environments. Others say that identity is a roller coaster of growth, where teaching artists navigate multiple roles like performer, teacher, and scholar in constant negotiation. Lastly, some scholars say that identity is shaped not just internally, but by institutional structures like school expectations or hierarchy and professional norms. So when the artists enter classrooms, they don't have to leave their artistry behind. Some bring it with them. And what happens next depends on the system they enter. Coming in, I thought I would hear a lot of frustrations from the teacher artists that I interviewed. But what I found out was something totally different.
As far as how my administration allows me to teach my classes, like honestly, they give me full discrepancy. They give me full
Wow.
kind of creative control over what I'm able to do with, as far as instruct my kids.
As long as I put a good product out, they're normally okay with whatever I do.
As first-year teachers, first, second-year teachers, it was a good, supportive environment. Our principal was supportive. The parents liked us. It was really more so like the teachers that were kind of looking at us kind of funny.
Research tells us Western classic traditions dominate many programs. But this isn't inherently the problem. The issue is not their existence, but their exclusivity. When one form becomes the standard, others are pushed to the margins. And in that process, students learn more than music, they learn hierarchy. But what proved to be true in these cases was the exact opposite. Schools are giving teacher agency in the classroom. Music institutions are adapting, but what about the teachers themselves? What kind of adapting are they doing? Let's listen to JB talk about his experience adapting his program as a music producer and musician teaching elementary and middle school ensembles.
That was like my version of band because I didn't teach band. So the little marimbas and xylophones were my version of having a band and having sections and basically bringing my whole personality into the classroom to avoid going insane.
Yeah, a lot of instructors do go insane or burn out, whether it's due to artistic differences or the challenges they face at these institutions. But what about AV, who teaches at the Fusion Academy that specializes in one-to-one education? That's a whole different learning environment and model. His experiences are detailed here.
Like I said, I've just been kind of gaining an arsenal of lessons and there is a structured curriculum and there's student outcomes that we follow, but they give us full discretion on how we meet those outcomes. We're adjusting that just to fit the student's needs. If the student doesn't need as much rigor, then we can make it less intensive assignment. But if a student is showing that they're might be exceeding capabilities or exceeding expectations, we can maybe make it a little bit more challenging for them so that they stay engaged.
And staying engaged is important. Tron remembered a time where he was teaching a young skilled pianist, and he had to reach in his bag of informal yet creative skills to reach that young advanced student.
She was correcting me on stuff because I had only taken piano for 4 years. She was 14 and been playing since she was like, elementary school. But the crazy part about it, though, I still was teaching her how to play piano because she could read music, but she didn't know how to play by ear, nor did she know how to just construct chords. So I was showing her how to construct chords based off of listening to the root and like, you know what I'm saying, and read chord charts, which took her musicianship to a whole nother level. Her mom was like, well, I never taught her that.
So, as educators navigate their own identities, they also shape the experiences of their students. That exchange of skills Tron just described will become a valuable point in that young musician's life. Some of those skills that are practiced by creative artists aren't taught in the classroom. That pattern is systemic, systems positioned by Western culture as the foundation of formal education. And those structures still shape curriculum today. But what's taught is only part of the story. There's also the hidden and no curricula. The hidden curricula teaches values, what is considered good music. The no curricula represents what is never taught at all. So when educators bring their new practices, they aren't just adding content, they are challenging structure. Let's listen to some more examples of what these practices look like and how teaching artists can decolonize the practice.
And I called it vocal polishing, to where in addition to teaching techniques such as scales and breathing and intonation, it was very much honed in and focused on just making sure that the singer understood how to preserve their voice on a day-to-day basis and how to apply what we did in the classroom or in the studio at home.
So I gave them kind of like techniques and methods of like how they can create melodies, make bass lines or rhythms, kind of using kind of randomness or kind of just like, you know, putting numbers together or putting patterns together and seeing what it sounds like, like this that type of exploration. I definitely apply that, when I'm creating myself.
But guitar, I would use that to kind of rally my students and really show them that I'm an artist as well as a teacher. So we'll go through our folk songs, we'll go through spirituals, and we'll do different sacred songs. And then, after a lot of that, they're like, okay, can we do something else? It's student led. So if they like a song and they say, hey, can we do this? Then I'll do my best to try to arrange it in a way that they can sing it. Whether sometimes it's like, oh, we want to sing SZA. And I'm like, here we go.
Okay, I'm a producer. I'm about to come in here and make some songs with the kids. We about to make some beats. We about to use Google Sound Lab because this is what I do. And so I introduce that to the kids, in lesson plan format. But I introduced it because it's like, okay, now I can just let them make beats. I can just critique their beats. I'm taking a lot of pressure off myself as a teacher. I'm not saying, I got to hit all of these marks. I'm about to just do what I do.
Like JB said, most teachers just want to do what they do, teach what they know, and sometimes the psychological factors that make up our classroom environments hinder us from doing that. But as we heard today from teaching artists, that might be a myth. It seems though that teaching artists I've interviewed have more agency to create their identity for themselves and their classrooms. maybe the compromise isn't as rigid as we thought. In fact, I've learned from these interviews that teaching artists actually want more involvement and attention to their programs.
I think it should be more of a focus on the craft and like, the same amount of energy that people put into STEM and everything like that. You can co-curricular between science and math and the history between music. I think people don't take it as serious and it's not as important. Like the same way there's assessments and SOLs. I feel like there should be a more thorough type of planning with curriculum. Because in developing the actual musicianship so they can get a career in music.
I just wish that the people that are at the top of it could be the administrators and it could be their bosses. So we're talking the school board level. I just need them to really understand the importance of music in education and why it needs to be not only supported through the music program, but also implemented into other subject areas. Music has a power to allow the student to learn a concept and remember it and it be retained because it creates an experience with that moment of learning. The brain it wires differently when somebody is receiving information and there's music and there's musical elements attached to it. So I just need that to really be kind of like pushed from the top down because if the top understands that, they're going to get the outcomes that they want.
You see, even if teaching wasn't the first choice, once in as a teaching artist, we value how admin and stakeholders see the craft. There's a level of investment that rivals that of our artistic practices, and a layer of skill set brought to the classroom that isn't always acknowledged. Tron and JB speak about this multidisciplinary skill set as a teacher and how they would like to use that skill set in their educational practices.
If you're of a certain level and you're demonstrating that, you should be able to weave in and out of the classroom. You should be able to weave in and out of the classroom. Maybe there should be an assignment for you, or you should demonstrate. Okay, kids, this is what I'm doing on the road. These are the things that I have to think about. These are the challenges and obstacles that I face. I should be able to do both, and y'all should see the value in me doing both. Because it's like, oh, I can just be myself. Opposed to I got to be this rigid version of what you see a music teacher is.
Me as a teacher, I don't feel like I'm being utilized fully, right? In middle school, they don't offer any other programs. You got band, orchestra, and chorus. But I teach guitar, I teach drums, I teach voice, like using some of those smaller group private instruction. And if we could put that in a curriculum in middle and high school the same way while those students have to have private instruction in college.
So, what does all this tell us? Becoming a music educator isn't just a career shift, it's an identity negotiation, a constant balance between who you are as an artist and who you are expected to be as a teacher. What we've seen is that this process is not as restrictive as we might assume. While systems, history, and institutional structures do shape the classroom, they don't fully define it. In fact, many teachers are finding ways to adapt, expand, and bring their full creative selves into the practice. What once felt like a compromise may actually be an opportunity, not to replace tradition, but to build alongside of it. Because teaching artists aren't just delivering curriculum, they are designing experiences, translating creativity, and building bridges between worlds. And while teaching may have not been the first choice for many, it becomes something more. A space where artistry evolves, where new identities are formed, and where impact extends beyond the staff.